So, let's be real. Most of you were surprised to learn that I am a retired United States Army captain. And that's fair, because I don't look like your stereotypical American soldier. You're sitting there and you're looking at me and you see a woman, petite, Latina, and you're thinking, there's no way she can fit all that hair under a hat. But growing up, I never felt that I was very smart or that I was particularly good at anything, so I figured the best place for me would be working for the government. And I joined the Army when I was 18 years old, and at the time, it felt like serving my country was the right thing to do, because it was 2001, 8 months before 9/11. And I had just finished my first semester of college. I was living at my parents' house in Puerto Rico, and I was working at a fast food and facing thousands of dollars in debt that I couldn't repay. And here was an Army recruiter telling me, hey, if you join the Army, we pretty much are gonna give you free everything. Just sign this piece of paper. So I looked at my options, and I'm like, well, you know what? Really, all I can do is I can drop out of college, I can take out some more loans, or I can just join the National Guard and have them pay for school. And that's what I did. So as a young Puerto Rican woman and a proud American, I said yes when Uncle Sam called and mispronounced my name. So 5 years later, I graduated college, and I moved to Germany as a brand new lieutenant. And it was exciting, you know, coming from a small island in the Caribbean, living in Europe felt like a dream come true. And this was the first time that I had my own place. I was making a decent paycheck. I was traveling all over to places that I didn't even know existed. At work, I had, you know, amazing coworkers. I work with, you know, some people that are still some of my best friends to this day. And just my life just seemed perfect and exciting for anybody looking in from the outside or anybody scrolling through my social media profile on MySpace. And slowly, I started feeling the weight of all those times that I had to come up with polite replies to unwanted attention from superiors and subordinates. The times when people laughed behind my back and to my face because of my thick Puerto Rican accent. The times that I looked around and realized that none of my peers looked like me. And the few times when we did encounter someone similar to me, having people go, oh, you're from the same place, you must know each other. So I think as a result, I just became a little bit more reserved and defensive. And almost as a coping mechanism, I built this wall between me and my soldiers so as not to give the impression of anything other than a professional relationship. And I started changing myself and going against who I really was so I could fit in and excel in that environment. And I also learned to grow thicker skin, which really is just nothing more than when somebody made an inappropriate comment, I just resisted the urge to punch them in the face. And I remember even ordering this set of audiobooks called American Accent Training, so I could get rid of my accent and learn to speak the right way, to learn to say words properly, to say internet instead of internet, to say bogus instead of bogus, and focus instead of So as the years passed, every day I got up in the morning, I put on my uniform, and with my uniform I also put on an invisible mask and pretended to be somebody I wasn't. And it worked every day until one day, in the summer of 2013, I broke down in the emergency room and I was admitted to the hospital for major depression and suicidal ideation. And this was a surprise to me. I didn't know I was depressed. I just thought this is the way everybody feels. I had no reason to be suicidal. I had an amazing career, a beautiful family. I was healthy. So the fact that I was there in the hospital for 5 days, crying nonstop, and feeling so miserable that I didn't want to leave anymore, it just made me disgusted with myself and guilty. I felt guilty for being so selfish and shallow and ungrateful. I was a fraud, and I felt trapped. Because all my accomplishments, professionally and personal, were just pure luck. And someone was gonna find out soon who the real me was, and they were not gonna like it. I was a liar, pretending that I was in control, when inside I knew I would never measure up to the people around me. I was in excruciating pain, the kind of pain that you can't feel in your body, but somehow it's there, and you can't make it stop because you don't know where it's coming from. And there, at my worst, I felt like I was drowning. And no matter how hard I tried to get to the surface, life kept pushing me down. And see, swimming gets exhausting. So when I'm going through a major depressive episode, it feels like whatever there is on the surface is not worth swimming for. So I quit. A few days later, I was discharged from the hospital with a brown bag full of pills and a treatment plan. And I felt better, I did. Because I realized for the first time that I wasn't crazy, I wasn't ungrateful, I was sick. I had a chronic illness and I needed to learn how to manage that. So at work, I went back to work, we started going to therapy every week, and we made some adjustments so I could start healing. But eventually, the Army decided that all my medical conditions made me unfit for duty. And we began the process of a medical discharge. And I thought, you know what, this is good. Because, finally, I'm gonna have the time. This is gonna give me the opportunity to take care of myself and spend time with my family. So things were looking up. I went on terminal leave to transition out of the military. And while I was going through that process, I found out I was pregnant for the second time. And this was great news because my husband and I have been trying for 2 years to get pregnant again. And, this is kind of like a do-over. I'm going to have the chance to do all the things that I couldn't do with my first daughter because I was working all the time. So I was just so happy for about 8 weeks. Because I was diagnosed with an ectopic pregnancy. And this happens when the fertilized egg implants itself outside of the uterus. So I had emergency surgery to terminate the pregnancy. And I was told that I would never get pregnant again. I was devastated. I killed my baby. My baby didn't do anything wrong. He was just there, growing, doing his thing, and my body failed him. I am a horrible mother. I can't even get pregnant right. And of course, I know none of this is true. It's nobody's fault. But depression is not logical. And all I knew was that I was unfit for the Army, and now I was unfit to grow our family. And that's a hard pill to swallow because transitioning out of the Army is hard as it is. And not only am I mourning now the loss of my identity as a soldier, but I'm also mourning the loss of my unborn child. And I was drowning again. And it was at this low point in my life that I found the healing power of comedy. My husband saw a flyer advertising a free stand-up comedy class for veterans. And he signed me up. And this experience ended up completely changing my outlook in life. Because at my worst, I was tired, lonely, and hopeless. But at my best, I walked through life with a purpose. And purpose is nothing more than discovering your talents and your passion and using it for the service of others. Because life is hard and things are not always gonna go my way. But this life is not about me, it's about others. And if I can turn all my anger, pain, and disappointment into something positive that brings joy and laughter to hundreds of people, then it is worth it. And this is not easy, doing stand-up comedy is scary. Just standing here on stage is frightening, even for somebody who has been to war. But every time I get on stage, I conquer fear and I win a small battle. And not just for me, but for everybody sitting in the audience, veterans and civilians that may be facing some of the same challenges and become inspired by somebody who's here, who didn't give up, who didn't crumble, who's still standing with a smile on her face. The sad part is that it took me almost a decade to realize where I went wrong. There is so much focus in the military and our society that the way to become a better person is to obsess over your weaknesses until you're able to overcome them. What if you use all this energy to develop the things and the skills that we're naturally good at? How about we put aside the notions and expectations of what a successful career looks like? Because the truth is we can use any of our talents to make this a better place. See, I don't want to be defined by the things that I cannot do, but by the things I do with love and passion and commitment. And we don't have to swim against the current our entire lives to be able to grow. Do what you love, because there's a place for you, for every single one of you. And if you can't swim like everyone else, learn how to make sandcastles. Because truly, I believe that the most important thing you can do for yourself and others is to find your purpose. And it doesn't have to be anything extraordinary. I am not fooling myself here. Comedy is very trivial, not curing cancer. But comedy gave me a new identity and the opportunity to stand here today and shatter stereotypes of what it means to be a veteran or a woman or Latina. And by being who I am and doing what I love, hopefully I can inspire you to do the same. And to me, that is a life worth living. Thank you.